So Exorcist 3, it has no secondary title, what is kind of weird, and watching this movie for a review was a weird experience because this is not a good movie. Not a really bad movie either, and it has some aspects that's shining, but if you look at just this statue, it tells you it is TV quality or straight to VHS. I have no real idea why the studio thought this will be a hit. And actually, this wasn't even an Exorcist thing, because the writer titled this in the book Legion, and never intended to be under the Exorcist brand. It still happened, and it did a adequate job. Fun trivia is I had the VHS of this film. It never went into TV, and I was just, well, it's cheap. And I even have the book, which I will probably never read. I spent a summer on one of our embassies, and I ended up taking it from the library and ended up bringing it me home, so I kind of stole it. Well, things happen. It's not a short book, it's like 500 pages or something, so it's kind of a thick brick. The movie, on the other hand, is not long, but it feels longer than it is because it's all medium close-ups or extreme close-ups. And the wall color palette is gray. There are a couple of rooms, but they look exactly the same, not exactly the same, but you know what I'm saying. There is a hospital room, the detective's home, the detective's office, a church, and they all gray cement walls, and it's just not pleasant for the eye. We finally get a date for when things are happening. This movie dates itself into 1990 and says the original Exorcist happened 15 years ago, so we finally can make a timeline. Not that I want, but I keep that kind of details in track. One of the weird things is, at the 40th minute, out of almost 2 hours, so it's like the end of the first third, we know who the killer is, because this is a crime movie, detective investigation. Our protagonist is the detective, and there is a serial killer. Not very supernatural serial killer, just a serial killer. Lacking the question who the killer is, our question is instead, how is he doing it? Because the guy is in the closed ward of a mental hospital, and he's in the suit. How does he do it? And there is a real investigation going on it, looking for clues, fingerprints, and all that kind of thing. Who is helping this dude? Maybe there are two conspirators for the killings. The main problem of the detective is that the killer, whose, don't remember the word, characteristics of the killings are used, was executed. So maybe the original idea of him is that maybe another person got executed, but it soon goes away from the detective, so we as the audience is really suspecting supernatural activity. Now, my problem with the killer is it turns out he's possessed and possessing the inmates of the asylum. Why? Why is this convoluted thing, and why isn't it even just the demon is going from body to body? Why it needs a constant? Why returns after the deeds to this dude? No idea, but okay, whatever. It works on the story's narrative, so it's not breaking the rules. But I still have questions. Anyway, it turns out that the soul of the executed serial murderer is possessing the body of the young priest from the original movie. I've heard some production troubles occurred because the guy they wanted said no initially and told it. It doesn't matter. Narratively, it works out absolutely fine. So is he a zombie? Because, the priest died. No, he's not. He got healed from the inside, so it's not exactly resurrection, but something like that. We can work with that. I think the point is it's not a real miracle, just kinda miraculous, and it is not a zombie. But it works out well that he is possessed. My problem is, coming from the original writing, that the possessing demon is actually demons, legions, because we are many. So, is the body possessed by one soul or a multitude of demons? How does that aspect works? It never gets explained, it's just weak writing again, but it doesn't really get involved in the story. I just would appreciate the lore. The most lore-breaking thing in this is that we are told that whoever, when Reagan said funny sentences in reverse English, the person who told the detective that it's just English in reverse was a female, but in the movie was a male person. So it could have been in the book this way, or in the original Exorcist novel that way, but in the movie it was definitely a male person. So is that a transgender person, retroactively placing a transgender person into the original Exorcist, making this a woke movie? Doctor Who style? I don't know. Is this a production mistake or negligence, or maybe it was willfully done? I cannot know. But I'm making a review, so I have to point out. So it's nitpick, but it's a fun nitpick. If you are wondering how the priest's body got out of the morgue, because he had to die, so we know the original priest died, his father Karas. The movie tells us, after a long while, but it is told us that the possessed body crawled out from the grave, Kill Bill style. And it's funny that the spirit of the serial killer complains about the chief coffin because, splinters got into him, breaking through the lid, and I was... You really wanted a stone coffin? Or a real hardwood coffin? Be happy with the cheapness. for fun's sake. And this movie, while mostly just people sitting down and talking, has some funny moments, like when this guy is running with a giant scissor, scream style. What? And the funniest thing is when that old lady, mental patient, is running on the ceiling like a fly. I can imagine that happening in an Amityville movie. That would be absolutely great, Dad. But what does that do here? You know, at the beginning of the movie, there are those helicopters flying around like locusts, referencing the second movie. That's a great thing. But what is it even? On the other hand, I'm bashing this movie for its blandness and stupid decisions, but there is a plot, not a complicated one. There is a kind of coherent plot. The seven had something like this kind of working out. It's fine. But who worked their ass off is the cinematographer. Even though, like, the crawling on the ceiling supernatural power for no reason at all. That's a stupid directorial decision, but the cinematographer worked the ass off to make it work as much as possible. Or there is the shots where the detective is talking with the supernatural killer. Those are great shots. Or there is this kind of dream sequence. We don't really have an idea what is really happening, what is not. The effects are great and symbolic, and the detective is confessing that yes, Satan is real, he believes in him, and the damned rising from hell, rising, the tortured Christ or something, and flames are around. That's absolutely great work. The director did a shitty job, but the cinematographers worked the ass off with this movie, and I respect that. That's a great point. I don't care about the acting of the detective's actor or like anybody else, but there is one more aspect I'm proud this movie pulled off. This dichotomy, that the original idea of the book Legion was that the writer said in some interview that he was struggling with his face, his problem of evil and all that kind of thing. It was worked into the movie, in the script. It's great tiny details, like the detective is getting through a conversion story, if you want. We are not sure if he got into Christianity in the end, but he definitely went through that rite of passage. But there are also the priests who are very materialistic. There is this priest friend. He's a great character and one of the best acted role in this. Is into boulevard and fashion, real materialistic thing, and the spiritual guy is the detective who has the material profession, and all that kind of little details bring this movie on their shoulders. And that's why I think this movie is slightly better, despite being boring color palette and the directorial decision is bad and the framings are boring. this is better than the original Exorcist. Yeah, I think that is what I wanted to tell about this.